You're listening to Muzilog Muzik Radio, home of indie artists.
Keep it locked.
As we continue to make it a great day, whatever time it is on your end of the planet, I'm Samuel Archer, your host. It's the Anytime, Any Day Radio Show. Yeah. Shout out to the International Village. Hope you guys are doing great. It's a beautiful thing to come back on and chop it up with you guys. Spreading love in a world where it seems like the love is running on low. The love is running low. And we need to get like that record, you know? Give me a higher love. Give me a higher love. Oh, yeah, you want to take it higher? Tell people to cool it down a little bit. We might need to legalize something that you can burn and vibe the place up a little bit, you know. We probably need something like that. We want to shout out the Anytimers. And if you don't think you're an Anytimer, I think you're an Anytimer. The Anytimers. Let's see how that feels. Although we did get another suggestion, and it was called the Straight Shooters. One of the listeners thought that would be a cool play on the name Archer. Archer means, you know, the people that rock with bow and arrows, you know. And you gotta shoot straight. You know, shoot straight for the goal, you know. I just took a sip of that coffee that I'm drinking. I'm still looking for that coffee company that want to rock with us over here. This is really good real estate, guys. Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. But back to the straight shooters. You know, we gotta be careful as black folk how we joke out here. People might feel threatened when you say you're shooting something. You know, gotta... Yeah. But, you know, there's still that cyber life junkie idea I thought about, you know. That you're a junkie, you know. Like you could be like a saltwater junkie. But we're going to work it out. Today I'm going to call you guys the Anytimers because it's an Anytime, Any Day radio show. You know? So how are you feeling, Anytimers? Hope you guys are good. Shout out again to the International Village. We're worldwide. Shout out to the folks in the UK and in Guam, and South America, and South Africa. Some folks in the Caribbean, TNT. You guys are tuning in to the show. It's a beautiful thing. I know some of you guys might miss me, you know, just every couple of days. Some of you more and more. You know, ladies, they want more. You know, they're hypergamous. They want, you know, They want that higher love. Yeah. Everything is more and more. Guess we got to look for that too, right? Guys, gotta keep it creative. Maybe you could rotate the roses when you do. One week you get some yellow roses. Find some good meanings for yellow, like if you're going to use yellow roses. Or maybe instead of just picking yellow roses, you can find out what type of flowers that she likes, But you got to ask her in a good way, and in a way that she can't predict that's what you're trying to establish. You're trying to get some intelligence. Maybe you want to add a little interest, you want to be spontaneous a little bit. You want to mix it up. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. You don't figure that out. You're a guy. Guys, we use reason. That's what we rock with. But when you figure it out and you figure out what colors of flowers that she likes, maybe figure out the least favorite color to the favorite color. Hopefully it's about 4. And the reason why I'm thinking it's about 4 colors, or kind of limit it to 4, because she doesn't even know what you're doing. She's just like sharing. And what you do is you pick a specific month that has 4 weeks in it. And guys, what you do is the least favorite, you buy that one maybe on the Friday of the first week. You say, hey, I bought you some flowers. Or you could send a rose, or you could try the 800 flowers people, however you want to do it. Put some fruits in it if you want. I just sipped that coffee again. If you're a coffee company, you're missing out on the real estate. Get with the program. Either that, or I may start looking at some poster companies, I used to drink postum as a kid. But back to the flower thing. The second week, you go to the next level of the flower, right? And that next color of flowers. On the third week, you do that, and then the week 4, you take it to the favorite color of the rose that she likes, or the roses, or what have you, flowers. I know there's a difference between flowers and roses, but you guys get the drift. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And, while you're at it, guys, she may inquire, She want to know what's going on. Well, what are you doing? It's her nature to ask you what's going on. But guys, this is what you say. I'm working on something. they may ask other questions, they may want to expound. Women like to talk, they like to inquire. They need talking. Their frequency is talking. They need to have conversations. That is what I observe. I'm not claiming to understand women anyway. And I'm not licensed, so enjoy this entertainment at your own risk, is what I'm saying. But it's good points to ponder in the mind. You can say you're working on something. And if you're a guy of few words, then be a guy of few words. Be you through it, You're not doing anything outside of your vibe, You're in your vibe. When you give her the flowers, do it in your vibe. It's like Doggy Dog said in the Cool Runnings movie. We have to bobsled Jamaican. That's right. So when you do the flowers things, guys, don't be someone else. You have to be you. Yes. She has to recognize you every time. So yeah, I just thought I'd just throw that in there. Some nice tidbits. Now, maybe the folks who are in the same gender-loving group, the category, or that's your vibe, we welcome you too. Maybe you can share if what I'm saying is making any sense. I mean, I wouldn't know how it works over there, but, feel free, Join the convo. Jump in the chat and say something. We'd love to hear from you. Engage with us. We're the international village. We're inclusive. We rock with diversity and equity. Yes. Yes. Shout out to the Anytimers. Has a nice ring to it, I think. But, the door is still open. If there's something more funkier, sexier, hey, throw it in and let's hear what it, let's see what it is. I'll throw it out to the family, and then the family can respond. And it can let me know. Hey, this is a new name for the crew, Got a vibe with the crew. So when I said, I take it that you guys missed me in the last episode, a good colleague of mine, he was a little taken aback. He likes to protect his masculinity, anything to make that vulnerable, He's very, very guarded, I must say. Very guarded. The way I feel about wearing pink, oh yeah, he feels that way, about making sure his masculinity is safe. I mean, I agree, you gotta have a safe space for your masculinity. Yeah, this is some damn good coffee. It's amazing. Yeah, so I'm gonna look out for any other suggestions, Let me know how you feel about the straight shooters. Want to shoot straight out here? I have a family member who's a photographer, lives in Trinidad, and the then Prime Minister at the time, Manning, was having an event somewhere. And he was part of the camera crew. And, of course, the Prime Minister is going to be somewhere there's security and things like that. And photographers like to use the term shoot. We're here to shoot, shoot a scene or shoot some pictures. And he casually said, we're here to shoot the Prime Minister. And the security guard kind of like, he understood what he meant. He understood the context. Because, he's a photographer and they're, filming and things of that nature. But he brought it to his attention. He said, you realize what he just said? That you're here to shoot the Prime Minister? Whew, let that breathe. It went well. I mean, nothing bad happened. But when I heard the story, I thought, thank God the security guard wasn't a knucklehead. He's here to shoot the Prime Minister. So we're thankful that common sense prevailed in that moment. Yeah. I have some good news, guys. Some good news. Really good news. I've been working on the YouTube channel for a few years. I started this particular account. I think I've had that account maybe since 2015, 2014, 2015, around there. And I'm happy to announce that we just crossed 1,000 subscribers. I'll take a drink for that. My God. How long ago was that's almost 10 years, guys. Could you imagine 10 years building your channel up? I mean, I wasn't diligent about it. We're going to keep it real. I wasn't really, I had like 50 subscribers to the YouTube channel I had for the Gmail account. I wasn't trying to do the subscriber thing, build a subscription up. Truth be told, but that's something, right? Taking 10 years to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's very intense. So I want to thank those of you who heeded the call, or you adhered to the call and you went to YouTube, Samuel E. Archer on YouTube, and you subscribed to the YouTube channel. I have a couple of things over there. I have some of the music. Actually, most of the music I've released recently is there. If you guys are into the music that I do, I don't really talk about it that much here. I don't want people to think I'm the jack of all trades guy, He does everything. No, I don't. I don't know karate. And there's some things in life I haven't tried yet. So, yeah, I don't know it all. I do know a good bit of things, but, But I have some music. I have something called Walk Up, written good for this carnival, people who love soca music. If you like the soca vibe, you know, I have some amazing artists on there. You know, you guys can check it out. It's also on the DSPs. Apple and Spotify and Deezer and Amazon Prime and so on. If you have subscriptions to those platforms, you can get the music. It's called Walk Up Rhythm. Yeah, Walk Up. I'm yet to start working on volume 2, you know, so I want to, you know, send greetings out to all the artists that was on volume 1, you know. You know who you are. You know who you are. You know, maybe I should take a moment and for us to recognize the folks that worked with me on that project. Why don't I do that? I mean, you know, why, you know, just anytime, any day, you know, we're discussing some, you know, amazing things here. So, yeah, let me go to the project here. By the way, the artwork is courtesy of AI. You know, I sort of rocked with AI a little bit. I was experimenting and, you know, came out really great. Now, there's a couple of these things that I did from a graphic designer standpoint. It wasn't like all black in the back and, you know, I had to do a couple of things around it to help create the mood. But I mean, overall, you know, the images you see, you know, I was being a little imaginative. You know, it's really either that or go more in a cartoon type of a vibe. It's kind of hard to find models these days to do what you need. You know, everyone has a podcast now. They're photographers now. They're busy, you know. And you want to get a sexy lady in a bikini, and it's like you gotta go to the dentist or something, you know. And maybe the lady that's helping you with your mouth, hey, would you mind wearing a bikini? I want to do a photo shoot. I need some models. You know, maybe you got to go there. I don't know. I don't know where the people are now. I did reach out to some people who, you know, they're supposed to be influencers, and they, you know, they're not businesslike. I don't know what's going on. Everyone is, and they want to get paid. It's interesting dynamic now. You know, shout out to the people that can find people to model in their music videos and take pictures. It makes you wonder if it's all real, you know. Although it's a facade. So this project has, I would say, 16 programs, or 18 programs to it. And there's some exhibits, you know, there's some interludes. You know, so if you take those out, it will probably come down to maybe 15 or 14 songs. The project is also available on Bandcamp, by the way. So if you go to Bandcamp, type my name in, Samuel Archer, you know. Now, there's some other Samuel Archers out there. They are not me, obviously. I want to, you know, say that I own that space, you know. So you all need to change your names, because I am Samuel Archer. That, you know, when people type it in, I'm the one that they see. So you guys got to add something else, you know. Samuel Archer and the on the Calypso Groovers or something. You know, do something with your name. Add something to it, so we don't mix it up. And you know, it's been interesting. At first, I was just calling myself Sam, and then you had other artists calling themselves Sam. Okay, and I said, okay, Sam Archer, and then, you know, as the name got popular, you know, there were other Sam Archers. You know, even the platforms was mixing us up. I'll go to this is before they straightened out. You know, it's a little bit better now. There was a time when everything was being mixed up. I think the AI was just associating things, or the computer, or whatever it was. And you know, it was just like, no, who is this person? You know, why is this person? Why my albums are here? So I think they sorted out. They sort of worked on it. And then I had enough, and I said, you know, well, I'll just put Samuel Archer. That was the straw. And I said, okay, when I do that, I will be the Samuel Archer. I said that too. So you all could keep the Sam, you all could keep the Sam Archer. I am Samuel Archer. So I'm just going to stake my claim there. Hallelujah. So we had some features. We have Dice Man, you know, Orrin Richards, Sidonia, Screws Barrington, Lennox Piku, Dion Simon, Candela Williams, Lima Calbio, Hawkeye, dancehall artist Hawkeye, that is, and the talented, Honorable Roger George. These are all the artists that blessed the project, the Walk Up Rhythm Volume 1. I don't know if they want to see me for the Volume 2. You know, I was just like a stickler here and there. You know, I've seen different compilations, you know, getting done, and really impersonal. You know, submit the song, and there's barely any communication with the artists. I was happy to communicate with the artists that rocked with me and talk and get to know them some more. Some of them are comedians, by the way. They're really, they're nice people, very, very nice people. And it was really cool rocking with them on the Walk Up Rhythm, you know. So if you want to experience some of that music, just type my name and put Walk Up, and it's spelling walk, W-U-K, right? It's not work, as in W-O-R-K, so keep that in mind. Walk Up Rhythm. You're walking up. Walk up. Yeah. And rhythm is spelled R-I-D-D-I-M. It's not R-H-Y-T-H-M. So make sure you kind of have that, you know, spell it right for you. And, you know, you can check that out. You know, shout outs to all the artists that found it important to believe in the vision that I had for it. And even the supporters. There's a lot of people that supported the project. It's one of those little engine can, you know, the little engine can type of a project. Actually, 2 songs charted in Trinidad, which was great. You know. So the 2 songs were, what was those 2 songs? It was from one of the rhythms, because it's the album features 3 rhythms on there. Record is called Here With You by Lema Calbio, that charted. And a record, Let We Go to Tobago by Orrin Richards. Those two songs charted back in November of 2024. So that was a beautiful thing. And the saga continues. But while we're at it, I want you guys to, let's get to 2,000 subscribers. There's a podcast, one of the podcast programs that I follow. It's called The Midas Touch. Kind of tune in and get updates. Obviously, well, not obviously, I don't know. Maybe they move around and they might hear me mention their name over here, And but what was fascinating, I thought, was they were working towards 5 million subscribers. So they had like 4 million and change, and so they just recently made their 5 million subscriber mark about a few days ago. As I look at that, that's cool. That's amazing. They're looking to get. So the last episode I heard, one of the Midas Touch guys in there, he said, "Help us get to 6 million." I was like, "Oh my God." Me with my little 1,000 subscribers, Yeah. 10 years to get that, but that's rough. So you're gonna help me get to 2,000 subscribers. Let's take it a step at a time. And once we can get to 2,000, I'll probably up it up to like 5,000. Let's see how the international village could bring a little, nice little vibe to the situation. So I mentioned that the love right now in the world is pretty low. It's kind of hard to find common sense, So many ideas, so many forces, so many things are just in different phases and so on. So I'm saying that to say this, when you tune into the Anytime, Anyday Radio Show, it's not that we want to ignore anything, because if you notice, I'm keeping it light. I understand. I keep hearing that my voice is soothing. I want to keep it soothing. And maybe there is a space for a soothing voice in an erupting world, those of us that soothe, help ease the mind. So we're not ignoring what's happening currently, but it's okay to unplug once in a while. And you unplug to replenish the mind, body, and soul. You got to replenish somehow through the madness. That's what we're going to do over here. Replenish. So you can continue facing the challenges that needs to be overcome. But you can't do it when you're too tired, Gotta rest up a little bit. And resting doesn't always mean sleeping, right? We all have ongoing challenges. So those of you tuning in, I hope you're finding some solace through the times, and give the mind some time to help you figure out the power moves you need to make. And also make power moves when you have the chance, make power moves. Even if you don't see the flower growing the way it needs to grow, make those power moves. Doesn't mean it's not growing. Some people like to consider power moves when things are happening. Might be a little too late, so think it through and prepare and put your things in place. Make sure you replenish by tuning into the Anytime, Anyday Radio Show. I had to throw it in there. I started talking about my colleague who was very guarded with his masculinity, So one day we were having a conversation, and we were talking about some guys who like certain parts of the anatomy of the ladies, Some of us like the mountains on the chest, hallelujah. Some like the legs, Some like the face or the lips, So, but there's a term that's used that gives a different context if you're going to put the word man behind it, right? It could be a breast man, a lips man, a legs man, but you don't want to be. Watch yourself. Now, interestingly, I'm not being too guarded, but I'm somewhat being a little guarded. I looked at some of the platforms, and the Muzilog Magazine podcast is under the clean category. I was like, look at that. We're clean. So I'm wondering if I say something edgy, if it would throw us in trouble. That's something to think about. You don't want to get in too much trouble out here. We already have a clown show going on. Trouble would not be a good look. So we're going to keep it clean, Mr. Clean. Yeah, we're going to keep it clean out here. So we're going to put a spotlight on my book, Hybrid Executive. If you don't have that book yet, get it in your library. And while you wait for the audio version, some of you can still get the ebook and rock with us an application called Speechify. And they have the names of a couple of notable people in there. I think Snoop is one of the people in there. I got to pull it up and see what other actors or celebrities they have that can actually be reading the text in the ebook. You can also get the PDF version. I have a special link for that. And if you want the hard copy, I'm actually out of hard copies right now, but I'm getting ready to do a new order of hard copies. So if you're a hard copy kind of a person, reach out and we'll work it out and get it mailed to you in a jiffy. Hybrid Executive. And we also have a business card promotional package, $150 for the year. And we'll feature your business on or website. And when we put out a newsletter, we'll feature your business card there as well. So the links would be in the description. I'm so happy to say it like that. I hate saying link in the bio. It just irks my whatever it is. Link in the bio. I could tolerate it, but it's, what the hell is that? Could you imagine pulling that up 100 years from now? And they'll be like, what did people mean by link in the bio? Oh, by the way, I also have another book that I need to start talking about. But it's not a book, but it's a book. And it's a book for those who want to begin playing the piano. I call it Nimble Fingers Music Workshop. So if your fingers are still nimble and you want to learn to get the basics, you can get the PDF version of that book and make it happen. Yeah, make it happen. So yeah, guys, try that flowers thing we spoke about. See, if you try it out, whether it was good or, let us know how it turned out. Because, when you do it, it means you're working on something, So we want to hear everything, how that worked out. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And if you were wondering what you're listening to, this is the Anytime, Any Day radio show with your host, Samuel Archer. Yeah. Shout out to the International Village. I know some of you are at work. You have me in the background. I can see some of you at your desk, typing on your computers. The job you get paid for, that thing that's paying the bills. Gotta pay the bills, so it gotta work. And I'm just chilling in the background, Thanks for your support, and I'm happy to support you with my soothing voice. We're gonna let that breathe for a second. Yeah. So, one of the other things I want to discuss with you guys is that I'm seeing the numbers increasing, the same way how we were able to get to 1,000 subscribers. The viewership of the platform is increasing. So it's increasing, but that nobody's commenting. No one is leaving a comment. And, so I would like to encourage you to take an active role in leaving a comment. And I think I know what it is really. What's happening is that maybe you're not signed into your account. Let's say, it's YouTube, you got to be signed in to maybe your Gmail, or it's an app you have, and you got to sign into the app. Or, if you have Spotify or Apple, there's some sort of a sign-in thing you got to do. I know it's a pain in the pain, It's a pain in the pain, yeah. So if certain people are willing to go through a little bit of pain, if certain people are willing to go through a little bit of pain, signing into your account to leave a comment is not that painful. compared to the pain that some people are going through right now. And the guy said that's a little bit of pain. I don't know. When a state is about to go bankrupt and food is rotting and the people to keep everything maintained are shipped off to other circuses internationally, it's a lot of pain, guys. But I digress, We need to unplug and enjoy this radio show that you're tuned into anytime, any day. Let me say this too. If you're missing the vibe, replay the other episodes. This is episode 4, by the way. But there are 3 other episodes before this. And continue to share it. Share the episodes. Tell a friend, one person. Tell one person, hey guys, no, you can't say guys, right? That's plural. So whoever it is you're talking to, say, look, I've been checking out this radio show. And the guy's voice is very soothing. I think you should check it out. And send them the link. Say, check this out. One person. Yeah, just send it. Make sure you just send it to one person. You got to know one person that would want to check out the radio show. Now it's in the morning. It's actually morning time. I'm doing this. So it's in the morning, but whatever is the time for your siesta, you can put on the radio and listen to the Anytime, Any Day radio show. It's a beautiful thing. So I wanted to share a story so that folks could understand the dedication it takes to pursue what it is you're going after. There would be days that's easy. There'll be days that's not easy. And there'll be some in-between days. I like the in-between days, That's when maybe the rain is falling and you're hanging with your other person, and if you're a guy, you're in between. Hallelujah. That's, so you'll have in-between days. And then, you go to the opposite side of the spectrum and have good days and not so good days and some tough days. This is many moons ago. I was pursuing, the world of production. I lived in New York. And New York is the hustle and bustle town. I don't know if I miss New York. Although I'm a New Yorker, straight up, don't get it twisted. It's all about Brooklyn. It's Brooklyn, baby. But we love the folks out in Queens, in the Bronx, Harlem, Staten Island, or Shaolin, call it Shaolin. And it's a cool Caribbean melting pot. New York. It's changing a little bit. It's kind of changing. Certain areas are gentrified now. It's kind of one of those things. You go and you see different people walking late in the night. It's strange. You're like, where did they go? And everyone is Jamaican, right? For some strange reason. You start talking to other people, are you from Jamaica? You know? I really think that they're talking about the word, are you from the Caribbean or something, you know? But, you know, I guess Jamaica is such a, you know, word that it fits for the Caribbean. So they may actually think that they're asking you if you're from the Caribbean and thinking that Caribbean means Jamaica or Jamaica means Caribbean. And obviously, if the person is not from Jamaica, they sort of have that look. I'm from St. Vincent. Oh, I'm a Guyanese. And, you know, it's kind of funny too. it's kind of funny because if the person is asking you if you're from Jamaica, they wouldn't even have a clue of what a Guyanese is or a Trini is or a Vincentian. It's like looking at Asians and just say, hey, you Chinese, you know? And then this, you know, they might respond and say, no, I'm Filipino. And you'd be like, what? Or they might say, I'm Korean. And you're like, huh? Oh. So what's that word, you know? Maybe instead of trying to guess where people are from, maybe you should ask, right? So what part of the world you're from? And maybe that might just go a little bit better. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm in New York, frequenting record labels and, you know, recording studios and production companies and meetings. And it was, geez, like I'm thinking about it and I'm getting a headache. It's so crazy back then. But I like, you know, I like the music industry. I don't like there's a dark side of it. That side I could do without. It's just stressful just getting the other thing together, and then you got to deal with the gatekeepers from the dark side, you know. It's a toughie, you know. I can understand why some artists that are established, you know, maybe they may have a daughter. The daughter wants to pursue music, and they're like, I don't know. It's crazy in there. It's crazy. And ladies, if you have a dad or an older sibling or someone that's already established and they want to protect you coming in, let them protect you because they know what you don't. And I look back at certain things. You know, a couple of people are in court now. Some people in court, I interacted with them over the years. Some opportunities I got blocked. Maybe I dodged a bullet. You know, maybe grandma's prayer worked out. But this was an interesting story. And what makes the story interesting is that, you know, as an instructor that I teach at a university, you're continually researching, you're continually staying abreast as to what's happening in the industry. You look at interviews, you look at recordings and, you know, documentaries. So this particular A&R, which stands for, A&R stands for Artists and Repertoire. Although I heard an A&R, one time I went to ASCAP meeting, and there was this A&R from MCA, And someone in the audience says, "So what does A&R mean?" And he said, "Artist relations." And those of us in the meeting, we kind of looked at each other like, "What? This dude is an A&R. He's a panelist. He's one of the panelists in ASCAP, and he thinks A&R is artist relations." Whew. Well, MCA is, I think it got swallowed up by Universal. I don't know if there's an MC portion anymore. But, if you're going to hire someone, let them know what the title means. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, this particular A&R, his name crossed my path probably maybe 3 times in the last year or so, and I wasn't looking for him or anything. His name just popped up in some situations. I was like, wait, he's still around? I kind of had to ask. I was like, wait, because it was a name I hadn't heard. His name I hadn't heard in a while. So it was just interesting that his name popped up in some areas. So there was this guy that I knew as a manager. He was managing, and I had a production partner at the time. We call him King Rich. His name is Richard. Shout out to Richard Smith. So there was a time Richard and I, we were, no, this is not Richard White, okay? That's a whole different person. So don't confuse Richard White with Richard Smith. And we were like starting to do, production. I was more writing, lyricist type thing, vocal arranging. And Richard did more, the heavy lifting, the drum tracks, the beats, the, keyboard work. He'll come up with the tracks. And amazing producer, by the way. If you're looking for a good producer and you don't want me to produce it for you, you get him. Look, I don't have no time to produce anybody, unless it's something that I'm doing for me anyway. So hey, reach out to King Rich and he'll set it right for you. So we had this friend that was a manager. That was his thing, artist management. And so we go to this label in the city. This is sort of like one of those side things, Go to this label in the city, and we have a meeting. We have a meeting with this A&R guy, and he introduces us, And I think the fact that it wasn't like we walked off the street and met this A&R. We actually had a meeting. I think is why it is something that I remember, and leaves a bad taste in my mouth. If this was an A&R, if the situation was that we had just met, maybe at an event, or you're shopping around, you do a cold call or what have you, and you meet that way, and it ended up the way it ended up, I could work with that. But if there's an introduction, if there's conversation, you've sat down, you spoke, and you pulled up artists and said, I'm looking for music for this artist, I'm looking for that, I'm looking for the other, and all of that. And back then, you got to remember, we didn't have the luxury and the technology that we have now. So that was the other thing. We were still somewhat in the analog era. We still had payphones. And so at the end of the meeting, what was implied was that he needs a lot of tracks. And based on the artists that he shared with us, we kind of, Richard and I, we took some notes and said, all right, well, we can do that. And the implication was that he needed it the next day. So back in those days, you made certain sacrifices. And this, getting the music ready for him was somewhat of a sacrifice, because the studio at the time, Richard had merged with another friend of ours, Elliot Lamour. Unfortunately, he passed on. Well, we would go to an area called Queens Village, I think. It's Queens Village is like, it's really in Long Island. It's not really in Queens, and you guys could fact check there. It's like, to get out to where the studio was, we had to take the LIR and take a bus. So when we left the meeting, Rich and I, we spoke and we said, well, what are you going to do? Well, he needs the music. It looks like it was a good meeting. We didn't get any sort of negative vibes from the meeting. It looked okay. Well, I was newly married at the time, so I made a call and I said, hey, this situation arose and I need to jump on it. So it turns out that same night in that area of Long Island, they were expecting snow. And not a flurries. This was, they were expecting some inches. So I'm like, and I think we considered dealing with it like the following week, but the implication was, well, yeah, we need this like right away. It was like, yeah, we need this right away. So get me the tracks so we can get to work. So, okay. So I made that sacrifice. Came back from Manhattan, jumped on the LIR, got out to that special stop we were at, and we had to take the bus. And we get to the studio and we start, pulling tracks and songs. And those days, it was sort of interesting. Sometimes you'd have a good song and then you had a meeting. The A&R liked the track, but he didn't like the song, or vice versa. They would really make it difficult in some aspects. Well, they know what the label's looking for. So, it's not like you can argue it. It's like, or sometimes you'd have a really good song and it's like, well, they're trying to get the artist a publishing deal in that moment. So regardless of how nice the song is, they're just going to tell you, I don't like the song, but I like the track. So you had to prepare for, well, let's just have the tracks. And then let's have the tracks with the songs on it, the same tracks, but maybe on a different DAT. Those days we moved to a DAT, a digital audio tape. We sort of went a grade up from cassettes. So we work all night until about probably like 3-4 in the morning. That was a regular thing. And I had work the next day. I had to work that day. So we come out because we had to catch this bus to get back to the LIR, to get back to Brooklyn, to get home. And I lived on Franklin, the Franklin stop on the 4. So even when I get to Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, those of you who know the landscape, I still had to jump on the number 4 to get to Franklin Avenue. Or maybe I can jump on the 3 or the 2, right? That would get me to Franklin Avenue as well. And then get ready for work, right? So we get back to Brooklyn. Oh, well, actually, let me set the stage for you now. So we have everything we need. And Rich has the stuff because Rich is the one that would take it to the A&R. And we come out and it's knee-deep snow. It's knee-deep snow. And I said, you sure a bus is going to come out in this snow? And as I'm saying that, there was a plow that was just plowing the main road itself. I guess so wherever we had to walk out of that development, that housing development, and get to the bus stop. So luckily, I would say, they had a plow that ran, and so at least by the bus stop it was clear. And at that specific time, the bus actually showed up. But it was knee-deep snow, like literally knee-deep snow. We had to walk, I'll say maybe a quarter mile, half a mile to get to the bus stop. Get back to the LIR. Some good coffee. And get back to Brooklyn, and we got to Atlantic, and that's where we separated there. And I just gave him a pound. I'm like, dude, good luck, do your thing. Hopefully we got something from this, Now you're hoping for the best, you're working hard, you're in the grind, you're in the mix, you're doing all of these things. So work, and then later in the evening, we caught up. We didn't have the luxury of texting each other, and I don't know if the two-way beeper came out yet. So we ended up talking that night, and then he was like, Richard was like, yo, he said the dude went out to L.A. I said, what do you mean he went out to L.A.? Like, I was like, does he know what we did last night so he can get the tracks? Because he was so adamant in getting the tracks. And he's like, so Richard kind of shrugged. He's like, hey, I went. They say he went out to L.A. It's like, okay. So that wasn't an unusual thing. Meaning it could have been true that he went to L.A. Because that was sort of like the life. You had labels that, they had the East Coast offices, and maybe they had to go out to the West. Maybe the heads of the label said, hey, you got to take a red eye tonight to go to LA and do X, Y, Z. It could have been true, but it was such a regular occurrence because even when I hung out with track masters, if they were going to a meeting, part of the thing was, the A&R went out to LA, so it could have been a ruse, and what I learned from track masters is that they stopped leaving the dats. Like, so if the person wasn't there, if they couldn't see the person and hand it to them directly, they would say, all right, we'll be back, and keep the product. Because, leaving it there meant that it's going to end up in a pile because maybe other people came to see that A&R that day. But at that time, it was a little bit different once you can put the DAT in the hand of the A&R and say, hey, this is the stuff we spoke about. You have that conversation. It just went over better. So I don't remember if Richard actually left the music or if he kept it. I don't remember what happened there. So a couple of days later, he went to the label in the city to see, did the A&R get back? And so he gets back to me later on that day, and He goes, well, I mean, I went, the guy was there, but it doesn't look like. So I'm like, well, wait, so he wasn't answering me like the way I was like, so what's the issue? Is there an issue? Is there a problem? He doesn't, he's not feeling the vibe. He doesn't want to work with us, what it was. So then Richard goes, so you want to go find out? I'm like, well, I mean, I'll go, but what you don't want to pursue this, so it looked like I was more, the one who wanted to like, get into the whole thing. But I think what I should have done was actually trusted my friend at that moment, or trusted my partner at that moment. And if he felt in that moment that, you know what, it's a waste of time, I should have trusted that and said, all right, let's, whatever, let's tackle the next thing. But I want to know what's going on. I mean, imagine you went, you get this meeting, you go to the studio, you stay up, get all the stuff, you prep it, you go through the snow, it's winter, it's, it's like, it's an opportunity that you're thinking, you should pay attention to, that you should at least try all the, pull all the bells and whistles and see, well, could we get something on here? Could we at least get a song on the project? So I don't know what day it was. It might have been the next day. I might have had some time because, again, I'm working. I have a job. So, so I remember going to the office, and just to find out, I came to called, went to the reception, and the receptionist checked and say, yeah, send Sam in. So Sam comes in. I'm Sam, by the way. I don't even think I sat down. It was like you came in, hey, what's happening? Like it was a short conversation. And with the conversation, I was just like, okay, let me just throw, different olive branches out, just to smooth out, so I don't know what happened with him and Richard. I don't think, and Richard is not a confrontation guy, so I don't think they had a confrontation. So if anyone was confrontational, it might have been me, because I'm trying to get to like, okay, what's the problem? Men, we solve problems. That's what we do. We look, if it's cold, you turn on the heat. It's hot, you turn on the AC. You're thirsty, you get some water. Yeah, that's how, that's how we think, right? And so anyway, he was very like, like there was a wall. I don't know why there was a wall, but it was a wall. So I remember saying to him at some point, and I'm, we're like turning, I sort of turned, and I'm like, I remember being like more in the lobby area, because I'm kind of realizing that whatever the situation was, he didn't want to be clear about it. So I said, what if you allow us to work with the artists, do something similar to a demo deal? And a demo deal, the reason why I thought about that was when, during that time when you did demos, a lot of times the person demoing the song didn't sound like the artist that you're pitching it to, right? So if the A&R didn't have that foresight to hear a record and know that this record would work for the artist, sometimes it's good to cut the song with the artist. Or maybe if the artist is a lyricist, they can write and sing to the track. So it was something like that I was trying to suggest. And he said he went into this, for the industry, for the times, the people that have been the game. He said, this is how it's done, meaning that you don't get to work with the artists. You have to do your track and come up with your song and shop that. So he was basically saying that's how it's done. That's how it's been done. And then to top it off, he says to me, you're not Babyface. It's funny now, but back then I didn't know if to laugh or to cry. It was like, what the hell does me being Babyface? But to understand it, he's basically saying, okay, Babyface, or someone like a Babyface, or producer that has some sort of a record, they've worked with different artists, they have hit records. Someone on that level will get to work with the artists or cut songs with the artists, which is sort of like moronic too, because they would actually produce the artists. It's not like, you're going to send an artist to Babyface to see if the record is going to come out good. It's like, it's going to be a done deal if you're coming to work with a guy like Babyface at the time. But my man said, I'm not Babyface. I looked at the brother. I kind of wished him well. I said, all right, man. You take care. So there is a part B to the story. And then the part B, I never got it. I never understood it. But it's the life, it's interesting. So after that meeting, to me, I just wrote it off. Like, that was just, it was just one of them things that didn't work out. And I was hanging with Frank Nitty from Trackmasters a few days later. Now, I haven't seen I'm talking about these guys. I haven't seen these guys in years. So I don't know if they're alive, whatever. But if they're alive, shout out to them. Shout out to them. So we're in Brooklyn, close to, where were they? They were kind of like I had to take the Empire Boulevard stop on the number 2 to get to where they were in Brooklyn. So I'm out there, doing some other stuff. I think I was hanging out with Rob Swinger from A-Team. They were signed to Select Records at the time, I think. And so, we ended up going down the street and we, tried a payphone. Frankie's answering some calls. And then I just hear him say, oh, Sam is right here. So then I'm looking at him, I'm like, what happened? Because I didn't know who he was talking to. He said, oh, Sam is here. So he gives me the phone. And the same A&R that I had the meeting with a couple of days before, he's on the phone. He's guy, hey, what's up? And I kind of so I called I say, that's you? It's like, yeah. And so it was short. It was more like, I'm trying to summarize, because that was a short conversation, but I'm trying to summarize it. It's almost like you're saying, I don't want to mess with your music, but I'm like God, I'm everywhere. That I don't know if that makes sense. It kind of came off like that. And I gave back Frankie the phone and I'm like, dude, because we're shopping tracks with whoever, it's not like I'm going to, not like him stopping the situation means that my world is ended. It's just meant that my chapter with you is probably not going to happen right now. And so I hadn't heard from anything about him in years. So within the last year, turns out that he's still in the industry. He's But he's at some label, and he probably did like a conference, or he was a panelist on something. And then I was listening to an interview, and his name came up again. I'm like, oh, I guess he's still around. He's still doing his thing. So I'm not going to mention his name on here. This is my real estate. I know I'm not Babyface, but you ain't Quincy Jones. I'm just being funny. I'm not that petty. I just thought I would throw a funny thing in there. But hey, to each his own. It's life. It's a learning lesson. And there were many instances where things were similar to where you going through snow and rain, and equipment ain't working right, and find a way. You're in the studio, everything going left. Man, whenever I get to that book, I'm going to tell you guys some stories, But guess what? He's still in the industry, and I'm still somewhat in the industry. I'm doing me. I'm happy where I'm at. Hopefully he's happy where he's at. I thought that would be a good, nice story to share. So those of you who are wondering, you're listening to the Anytime, Anyday Radio Show. Shout out to the International Village. You're keeping it real. I want you guys to still go to the podcast platforms. The links are in the description. You can get out there and check out some of the interviews. I have a lot of interviews with a lot of great artists. Muzilog Muzik Radio, which is also part of what we're doing here. We're saying it's the home of indie artists. So guess what? We got a lot in store, a lot of stuff happening over here. So by all means, check out the different things that we're doing. And, we still have that business card package, $150 for the year, whatever business you have a business or a service. That information is there too. And if you don't want any services, but you want to donate to what's happening over here, you can do that too. Yeah. I always wondered, how does someone who creates a joke, what happens in the mind, I always wondered how they come up with the joke, and you can tell the people who really, they create the jokes. We're not talking about like the jokes that are, like you're hanging with some friends and, you throw a word in and it's funny and everyone laughs, and, so you're not like a stand-up comic, you just say little things and it's just entertaining, not that type of joke, you like who sits down and comes up with a joke? It's interesting. So I thought I was going to come up with my own situation. Now, this is not really a joke, but it's humorous. It's a humorous thing. So I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to throw it out there. And now, again, you're not testing me, and I'm keeping my day job. Okay? I'm keeping my day job. We're not going to be doing any, do you think I got a shot at comedy? We're not doing that today. By the way, did you ever hear about the people that thought they were going to work with toothpaste and there was monostat that they used instead of toothpaste. You guys ever heard about that? Now, that's not what I'm going to talk about, but I just remembered that. So make sure that it's toothpaste and not monostat that you're brushing your teeth with. All right, guys? Don't have any. No. It's not a new toothpaste. And if your girl or your wife is putting it by where the toothpaste is, you got to probably reevaluate your life. Think about it. Lord. All right. Let me see how I could set it up right. I got to set it up right. So this is what you got to do. The answer you get, you're supposed to put yourself at the end. Okay, and there are two answers that you're going to give, but you must put yourself at the end of the answer. So now that you understand that, what do you do in a party? And this is a Caribbean party. Well, we're not going to limit it. A party. What do you do in a party that you have to do the opposite in a taxi? What do you do in a party that you do the opposite in a taxi? You're going to come up with two answers, right? And in the end of the answer, you got to put yourself in it. So is that a riddle? I don't think it's going to be a riddle, right? It's not really a riddle. It could be, riddles are, Leave something in the comment. Let me know what you think. Well, see if you can get the answer, and I'm going to give the answer at the end of the episode. You got to stay for that. Maybe, hopefully, I remember to give you all the answer, and if not, you'll just have to listen to the next episode for the answer. Maybe I should give you all a cliffhanger, right? Maybe have you guys ask people. And what is probably funny that I'm thinking in my mind is that some of you are actually Googling it or you're searching it on Bing. What do you do in a party that you do the opposite in a taxi? Well, sorry to burst your bubble. This is an original Samuel Archer creation. This is original. I thought about it. So I'm testing it out with you guys. And we'll see how that works. All right. So we spoke about a few things. I shared a really cool story. I hope that's inspiring. Regardless of what, keep forging ahead. Work on your idea. Keep rocking. By the way, if you are a coffee company, I've been sipping a lot of coffee tonight. Well, today, this morning, whatever time it is on, your end of the planet. Maybe there's a coffee company in Europe. Why don't we look at it that way? Maybe it's in Africa, maybe it's in the Caribbean. You don't have to be in the US. I'm based in the US, but let's try something authentic. Now, authentic meaning that the coffee is real coffee and it's not coffee that those cat looking like animals eat, and then they eat this particular thing and then they go and they defecate it over there and they dry it. And I don't know who thought about that idea. I ain't doing that one. The way I feel about pink, I ain't doing that one. So you guys work that out, figure it out, and, we'll kind of sort that out. So for the next half hour, or whatever time we have left, I want to keep it light and nice and smooth and all of that. And if you're cuddling with your special person, keep cuddling, Cuddle, rub, kiss, peck on the cheek, peck on the forehead. Yeah. And guys, if you're a breast man, work on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't bite. It's tender for the ladies, so don't bite it. Don't bite it too much. You could do a play bite, maybe. Play bite it. But that's all you can do. You can't really, So let's see what else I want to talk about here today. I want to touch on a nice little light topic here that let me see if I can find my pointers here, and see if we can want to touch on a nice little vibe here. This is cool. This is cool. I So have you ever smiled to make someone else comfortable, or you had a genuine a smile? What's the whole smiling thing about? And so while I was doing a little research on smiling, I was doing a little research on the smiling thing, and it's a smile is a powerful, it's impactful, So let's look at some advantages of it. Let's look at some advantages of smiling. And this is smiling from the heart, right? And there's a name that they call smiling from the heart. They call it the Dushan smile, right? The Dushan. I guess this gentleman, he was named Guillaume Dushan from France. He was a neurologist from the 19th century, and he studied smiling. So it says here, and this is under the advantages for smiling, and we're also going to look at what it does on the health side. It says it's an emotional uplift. Now, the point says here, smiling, and in parentheses it says, or should I say in brackets, and I'm a math teacher now, even fake, right? So smiling, even fake, can release endorphins and serotonin, and it's mood improving, or improves the mood. Right? So you don't want to destroy the groove, like in The Best Man. Don't destroy the groove. So it's an emotional uplift. It says here, social bonding. Social bonding. Smiling makes people appear more friendly, trustworthy, and approachable. So that's probably why some people don't smile. They don't want to approach them. And there's some health benefits of smiling. It says here it can reduce stress and lower blood pressure. Reduce stress and lower your blood pressure. And it says here, nonverbal communication, smiles can express empathy, gratitude, and agreement without words. So, what are the disadvantages of smiling? Well, it says here, misinterpretation. A smile might be misread as flirtation or insincerity. Well, another disadvantage is social pressure. People often feel forced to smile, even when they're unhappy. And then they have in brackets, in customer service. In customer service. So when I go to a company and it's customer service, that person is not really smiling with me. Like really? Like, I thought it was real. And they were faking me out all along. So you're forced to smile. You should be able to, And emotional masking. Constant smiling may suppress real emotions, leading to burnout or emotional fatigue. So I have one of the shirts that I sell. It's called, I have the title of that shirt. It says, Real Smiles Only. Real Smiles Only. Or maybe it has only real smiles. I remember. It's not in front of me. But if you want real smiles, you might want to get either get the hoodie or get the t-shirt. The link is in the description. Hallelujah. So, did you smile today? So, there were some other things I looked at. So the Dushan smile, it says it's the genuine expression of happiness. And apparently, it says here, a Dushan smile is a genuine expression of happiness involving both the mouth and eye muscles. So I guess you got to smile with your eyes. If you see the person is smiling with their eyes, meaning that there's somewhat of a slight squint. Like they're squinting and so it has a genuine type of a vibe, right? And then it says here with a fake smile, it primarily involves the mouth muscles and can be recognized by the lack of the eye crinkling. Woo. Dushan smiles are associated with true positive emotions and can have a positive impact on mood and social interactions. According to Very Well Mind, I guess Very Well Mind is an article it's referenced here. Yeah. So I guess if someone just smiles and their eyes are just wide open and they're smiling, that's a fake smile. They might have to test the smiles out when you get out there. Test out those smiles. See how that works out for you. So I decided to look at another word. And this one is hugs. Have you had your hug today? Did you hug someone today? So fathers and mothers with children, whether they're young or old enough, do you hug your children? And couples, do you give each other a hug? Well, that's rhetorical. But if you want to share, you can always go in the comment section and talk about that hug that you had going. So it says the advantages, I did add advantages and disadvantages of the research here. So let's see what it says here about advantages. So the first pointer, it says it's hugs, or the advantages. One of the advantages is the emotional connection. the emotional connection. I think Phil Collins spoke about that physical touch. You guys know that Phil Collins record? So, is it physical touch or invisible? You guys could research it. It's probably invisible touch, but we could throw physical in there. Physical touch through hugging can foster a sense of safety and love. Okay. People want to feel safe. They want to feel loved. Give them a hug. It helps you to release oxytocin. So it says here, known as the cuddle hormone. Oxytocin helps reduce stress and strengthen bonds. So if you don't want to release any oxytocin, just don't hug anyone. And it's also a comforting gesture. Hugs can calm anxiety and express empathy during emotional times. Sometimes a person needs a hug. Have you had your hug today? Hug someone today. So, what are the disadvantages of hugs? Consent issues. Not everyone is comfortable with physical touch. Unwanted hugs can feel intrusive or inappropriate. Well, that's kind of tough. You want to give someone a hug and it can go there? Consent issues. Did you guys hear about the case that the guy was accused of not having consent with a young lady? So the judge asks him, did you get the lady's consent? He said, no, Your Honor, I had a cold. So make sure you have your Vicks inhalers, guys, before, so make sure you can smell properly. Okay, yeah. So it says here, cultural boundaries are another disadvantage of hugging. Norms around hugging vary widely. What's acceptable in one culture may be awkward or offensive in another. I remember that when I was in college, there was a young lady. I don't remember what part of the world she was from, but she might have been either from the Pacific side of the world or maybe the Asian side of the world. And in college, I went to New York City Technical College in Brooklyn, New York, J Street. Those of you who went to CUNY College, CUNY, New York, City Universities of New York, shout out to you. We're all alumni, kind of, maybe. So you're meeting people, some melting pot at New York City Tech. And I remember there was this particular young lady, and a mutual friend was introducing us, a couple of us guys, and then, we knew this Jamaica sister, and she, we liming and thing, and so she says, this is my friend so-and-so. So we kind of stretched out her hand to shake it. And, so she pulled her hands back and she bowed. And, it was kind of, we were like, okay, what was going on here? And then she said, hey, the culture, they don't shake hands. They bow. I was like, oh, so, we did the bow thing, I don't know if you guys ever had that experience. No pun intended to the folks who don't shake hands. I mean, we're talking about hugs here. But yeah, it can be if it's not culturally accepted. So maybe I should find out. Those of you who are from the culture where hugging is like a boundary, what's the alternative? Or do you just hug people within your circle? Maybe that's a good question we can throw out there. So if you're from a culture that, you probably bow or do like a head bow, like a quick head bow or courtesy type of a gesture, how does that work? And those are I know some folks from the French-speaking territories in the Caribbean, like Guadeloupe, Martinique. And I've been to those places, by the way. When people are greeting, I don't know if you've ever seen people, they sort of put their cheeks together and they sort of, it's like they say, they gesture the kiss, but it's not like you're really kissing them on the cheek, but you put both cheeks together and you do the kiss. On both sides, by the way. And everyone is talking to each other, but this, it's a friendly thing. And in Guadeloupe, you sort of do that. Maybe I should research that and find out where that came from. Anyone from the French territories? French and Patois. Now, I need to find out. Do they do that in Haiti as well? Is that custom there? You need to find out where that is from, where everyone just kiss. So you sort of kiss on the left, and then they kiss on the right, and then you jump into the greeting. And they start talking. So that's another thing that's interesting. As I read about these disadvantages of hugging. So it says another disadvantage could be the timing or the context. So it says here, in professional or formal settings, a hug might be seen as unprofessional or over familiar. So I guess if I'm in a suit and tie in a corporate setting, I shouldn't consider hugging anyone. Well, unless I know them, right? Give them. I know how we men hug, and we don't really hug like how, we don't hug men like how we hug ladies, right? Well, I do see a man would probably hug another man, and obviously it's not a sexual thing, like they would probably hug the opposite sex. But it has to do with if the man is going through something emotional, like maybe somebody died, or somebody close to him died, or maybe it's a family thing or their family. So it would be that full hug that you hug that person. It's really more of a sympathy and empathetic type of a context. But the men, we sort of grab each other's hand like a fist, and then we kind of pat on the back. I guess that's the manly that's the manly hug. All right. We got to keep it real out here, And if you were wondering, you're listening to the Anytime, Anyday Radio Show. I'm your host, Samuel Archer, hanging out with you, shooting the breeze, having, things that I like to talk about and made me think about, keeping it smooth. We're in the spirit of replenishing while the world seems to be burning. So smile today, hug today. So I also looked up something else. I looked up hickeys, I had some interesting experiences with hickeys before, one time I had a lot of hickey tattoos on my neck once. And to add insult to injury, The young lady put one on my cheek, like, and my skin texture is kind of like caramel, so it's I'm sort of like, I'm on the chocolate side, but you could tell there's a touch of caramel. It's a little, I'm not totally all the way, but I'm not brown paper bag either. So I'm kind of between brown paper bag and chocolate. So I guess between that is the caramel, right? Or the whatever tonality that's there. So it will still show up on my skin, and even if you're going to wear the turtleneck. Anyway, that was almost 100 years ago. Hickeys, that's probably more like the high school thing, maybe teenager thing. You probably can't really have sex, so the next best thing is hickeys. Or maybe you've been going all the way already and you just want to do the hickey thing. So it says here the advantages. Expression of intimacy. It says a hickey is often a physical token of affection, marking closeness or passion. Well, yes, definitely passionate if you're going to be leaving a hickey. Yeah, it's you're really going in on the hickey vibe here. But it says a hickey is really a capillary rupture. Ooh. And let's see here. Is it like marking territory too? You think it's and vice versa. Not necessarily just the woman leaving a hickey on the man, or the man. Either which way, maybe it's a territorial type of a thing. I don't know. Is there a bad stigma to hickeys? What do you guys think? You guys could jump in the comment section and share your experience about a hickey. What was it like getting one? I think I want to do a little part 2 on this. So we're not done yet, but maybe part 2. So it says here, another advantage is playful bonding. Playful bonding. In some relationships, they serve as a teasing, flirtatious act that adds excitement. So with breaking the capillaries under the skin by sucking that part of the skin can add excitement. I guess that's a sweet pain, right? It's kind of almost like a vampire vibe, right? There's some of you that have vampire tendencies, Now you don't have the canine teeth to really, what is that all about, right? So let's look at it's just disadvantages. It says visibility and embarrassment. Hickeys are often visible and may be seen as inappropriate or unprofessional in public settings. I don't know if I agree with that. The people I've seen with hickeys, they wear it as a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I got some last night. Look at my neck. Yeah, those of you who are sexually active, you may have some listeners who may not be sexually active. So, hey, you can't bite yourself, right? Can't, maybe you can suck your arm. So I guess the question would be, where would be a good place to put hickeys if you don't want it to be on the neck? Are you going to go down to the breast area, or maybe go to the person's back and leave it on the back? Like, maybe the shoulder, like put it in places where, when the person puts on their clothes, to go to work, it's not really visible like that. You keep it close to the cuff, right? So it says here, unintentional possessiveness. They can be interpreted as a sign of dominance or control. I never thought about that. Getting sucked and someone has dominated you. Interesting. All right, maybe someone wants to comment on that. Talk about it. But it says here there's a health risk. Though rare, aggressive sucking can cause minor blood vessel damage or lead to infections if hygiene isn't observed. Well, we're hoping that hygiene is in the equation. You better go get that shower. Wash it off, people. Wash it off. Get that soap in the, soap it up. And it has here social judgment. Hickeys can attract negative attention or judgment from others, especially in conservative environments. So I guess the question is, where do you want your hickey? Now, can hickeys go in the private part? I don't know. If anyone wants to address that, because inquiring minds want to know. Or should hickeys always be in visible areas? It might be unfair, right? Because I'm thinking ladies might have more areas you can leave a hickey. Like where would you put a hickey on a gap? You know what I mean? It's like, other than the neck, it's like you just have the neck area or the shoulder area. I mean, you can't take your shirt off in public. It might be a good look. So that's a cool vibe right there. So if you had a hickey, but you didn't really want people to know, okay, it's on your neck. Now, is there a special makeup you can use to cover that hickey? That might be for the married people, They went to the bar and got drunk and, someone left a hickey. Get that makeup kit and work it out. You know what? That's a bad joke. Let me not do that. People are bonding here. You don't want to have that type of mentality. Like, what do you mean you went to the club and you got hickeys? What are you talking about? That could lead to a bad outcome. The objective here is to keep it playful, right? Keep it playful and, keep it nice and light. So the hickey stays on, it stays on the, it stays for about, sometimes about a week for it to clear up. So you want to be clear on how you work that out. You want to be, so just to recap a little bit, think about it. A smile can melt a stranger's guard. A hug can save your day. And a hickey, well, what would you fill in that area about the hickey? You know, what would that be? I guess that's something to think about. That's something to think about. Anyway, beautiful people, you're listening to the Anytime, Any Day Radio Show. I'm your host, Samuel Archer. You hung out with me for 2 hours. And we spoke about the things I like to talk about. You know, and for this show, I may not want to be, you know, I don't want to do reactive things or reactive videos or reactive news. You know, probably want to stay out of that. But, you know, maybe there's some topics. I want some topics that, you know, not the superficial ones, the ones that we can like really do a deep dive and you know, you don't really think about it that much. I kind of like those. I like the ones where it's simple but deep. You know, and you didn't really like, hey, you know, I never thought about that. You could probably share that in the comments section, and you know, we can make it a thing. It's probably something I can you know, do some research on, you know, get a little vibe, you know, and it could be a topic that we do. So guys, make it a great day. Shout out to the International Village. Shout out to the Anytimers or the straight shooters. I mean, we didn't pick anything yet, you know. So if you're shooting straight, shoot straight. You know what I mean? And you can also be a cyberhead junkie. But we're going to say the Anytimers. I like the Anytimers. It's almost like saying the Honeymooners, right? You guys know that TV show, The Honeymooners? The Anytimers. Make it a great day.
You're listening to Muzilog Muzik Radio, home of indie artists.
Keep it locked.